Hi, and welcome to another edition of Nevada Weekly. I'm Terry Nault with John Marshall. John, we have a big show today.
UNR was host this past year for the annual American College Theater Festival. 4 regional finalists joined our own Nevada Rep Theater in performing their winning productions, and UNR Arms and the Man, which many of you may have seen. Nevada Weekly garnered the results of the competition and also got some insights into the contest itself. Our reporter Rick Adams spoke with Jerry Wade, regional chairman, and asked him just what the American College Theater Festival is.
It's a national effort to bring college and university theater people together to celebrate their best effort and to bring a sense of community and common purpose, and to remind audiences that there's some really good theater going on in the colleges and universities across the land. There are between 400 and 500 colleges and universities that participate on a regional basis in the American College Theater Festival every year. We're divided into 12 regions, and geographically, on a regional basis, screening teams go out to participating schools who enter the festival to see the productions, and then representative productions are invited to participate in a regional festival, such as the one that we're having here at the University of Nevada. We have 5 productions that came in this year, and those are representative of what we saw in the fall from participating schools.
Where does the money for the American College Theater Festival come from?
We derive a certain portion of our budget from the Alliance for Arts Education, which is a program of the Health Education Welfare, or formerly Health Education Welfare Education, National Education Department. But most of it comes, we're very fortunate to have a corporate sponsor, the Amoco companies, who provide us with funds which make it possible for the screening teams to travel in the regions and visit the schools.
Are there any other events in the festival besides the plays?
Yes, there are a number of other factors besides the plays. One major program is the Irene Ryan Acting Scholarship Competition, where actors, not necessarily from the productions that come to the regional festival, but actors from shows that are entered in the region, are invited to an audition competition. And we just had this a couple days ago here. 10 actors from around the region, actors and actresses, and the winner of this will receive a regional scholarship and be invited to perform in national auditions, again at the JFK Center in Washington, D.C., and 2 national scholarship winners will be awarded there. And it's a fairly significant scholarship, $2,500 to each of the winners nationally.
The following Sunday morning, the various awards were presented. All the schools represented at the festival received a commemorative plaque. And there were individual awards given.
This year's winner, the Irene Ryan Scholarship Award for Region 8 North, Kim Mahaffey. Our student playwright for his production of Meccano, which many of you saw yesterday from Humboldt State University, Eric Ryan. Eric? And the director of the production of Meccano, also Humboldt State University, Michael Bourne. Michael?
Judith Webb, the representative of the Amoco Corporation, presented gold medallions of excellence to Richard Levering of Cal State Stanislaus and Howard Malmus of Mills College.
On behalf of the Pacific Central Region, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to present the Amoco Medallion to the Professor of Theater Arts, University of Nevada at Las Vegas, Jerry Croft.
At the end of the awards brunch, the outgoing regional chairman, Jerry Wade, was presented a plaque in appreciation of his efforts for the American College Theater Festival. After the brunch, I interviewed Barry Kyle, a director with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Barry was the guest critic for the festival. Barry, what are the differences between university-level theater in the United States and in England?
Well, the main difference is quantity. Educational theatre in this country is very extensive. The number of universities and colleges teaching drama is huge compared with England, where there are really very few places where you can study drama. Indeed, when I went to university as an 18-year-old, there were only 3 universities in England where you could study drama.
Well, then, what opportunities does a young person have to learn theater in England?
We have a thing called a drama school in England, which specifically means actor training. And I should imagine there are perhaps 20 to 30 of those establishments, maybe 10, that kind of establishment, maybe 10 of them are major. They're not courses which lead to a degree. They are specialised actor training programs that last about 2 years. And that's what you go to do in England if you want to be an actor. Quite distinct from that is the study of theatre in universities, which can lead to degrees.
Where do they learn the technical aspects of theatre?
Well, that's taught in drama schools as well. But I think that on the whole in England that technical training is actually not as advanced as it is over here. Most people who trained for technical jobs in the theatre go into the theatre first and really learn the job once they're in there.
How did you find the quality of the plays that were presented here this weekend?
Well, as always, it varies. I think that there is the danger that actors will be put in plays that they are not really suited for, and I think that that has applied. I think that also what can happen is that a play may be done because the producer, the faculty member who is producing it, himself or herself has a very strong idea or a very unusual idea about the way in which that should be done, and they want to do it for that reason. And I don't think that's always a good thing. I think as far as the actual standard goes relative to other regions in the country, I would say that that's on a par. But I think that what has been kind of interesting in the plays that have been at the festival is that it seems to me that they have in many ways been directors' productions.
What you're saying is that they should be chosen for what you have available in talent rather than what you have available in ideas for production value.
Yes, I think partly that, but also what I'm saying is that I think that there are 2 kinds of directors. There's the director who does a tremendous amount of work with the actors, and there's the director who is a kind of conceptual director and wants to put over a particularly personal interpretation of the play. I think there's been a lot of evidence of the latter kind of director at this festival, and I think the point I'm making is that I think that the most important thing is that in the way that the plays are done, that they should be there to develop the student actor, and that the work going on with the actor should be very rigorous and should help him to learn more.
Although the 5 plays presented at the festival were interesting and entertaining, none were chosen for presentation in Washington, D.C. For Nevada Weekly, this is Rick Adams.
Terry, I'd like to have a copper penny for every person watching us who would like to have invested in either gold or silver 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Dr. Robert Weems, former dean of the business school and a nationally recognized expert in the field of investing, recently spoke with Nevada Weekly concerning the ups and downs of gold and silver and what that means to the economic situation in the United States. Reporter Chris White filed this report.
With the recent spectacular rise in the price of gold and silver, people have been rushing to trade in their family silver or the old family heirlooms. Do you see this as a disturbing trend?
It's disturbing in the sense that the situation has developed. This doesn't mean that the the gold or the family sterling is actually worth more in real terms. It really means that the dollar has depreciated to the point where the dollar value placed on these things is very, very high. Now, in terms of whether or not a person should sell the family silver, that, I suppose, is a question that should be answered by the person himself. Unfortunately, they aren't getting full value for it. They are getting a very nice profit, but many of them are selling the family silver for half what it's really worth if it were melted up and sold to a silver company.
What are the reasons for gold and silver having the great intrinsic value that they hold?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I think a lot of people are beginning to recognize that gold and silver are metals that have the qualities of money. That those qualities are, they are easily recognizable. There is a tremendous amount of value in a very small book. They can be subdivided very easily. I've heard it said, and I think it's true, that an ounce of gold could be stretched into a wire that would go all the way around the world. It just shows you how divisible the gold really is. And any gold that is in question as to whether it's pure gold can be tested with an acid which will eat into practically anything else except gold. So these metals simply have the qualities of money as are generally recognized by the people. And silver and gold were actually a form of money long before government started putting their stamp on them. The government made it still easier to recognize them and compute reasonably accurate values, at least the ounces or fractions of ounces that were in the coins. So the government did perform an added service, but it is the fact that these metals were basically money that makes them money.
And what do you see as the causes for the increases in the price of gold and silver?
Well, there are a couple of factors. Of course, one is the fact that the paper dollar has depreciated so much that the gold and silver are worth more in terms of the numbers of those depreciated dollars. Another reason is that when the economy begins to get into an unsound condition, people begin to move out of things represented by paper money and move into things which are real values. For example, they start collecting art, they start buying antiques, they invest in tangible things. Now, gold and silver are very tangible and valuable metals. And so people begin, when people get panicky, they run to gold and silver. They run away from the paper money and they run to the gold and silver.
Is there a ceiling for the rise of gold or a bottom for the dropping dollar?
Absolutely none. The dollar could go to zero, gold could go to 10,000 or higher.
For the small investor, do you see an advantage in being in one precious metal over another?
The advantage in being in gold is that gold possesses more value in a smaller book. In other words, it's easier to take care of. It doesn't take up as much room in the lockbox. But basically, both gold and silver have the qualities of money, and I think it would be mostly a matter of personal choice as to which one you wanted to go into. Maybe for a small amount, silver would be better, and for a larger amount, possibly gold.
How about the silver coins?
Silver coins are an excellent way to buy silver, to acquire silver. For the one thing, they have the official stamp of the government on them. It's not necessary to take them to a bullion assayer who would have to melt it down and sample it and then tell you how much actual silver there was in it and so on. As long as you buy it in the form of a coin, you can get the exact specifications of the amount of silver in that coin. Another reason for buying a coin, especially coins that are rare coins is that they tend to appreciate from the scarcity situation, because there's only so many 1890 Morgan dollars ever minted. And so that establishes a limit on the number of those. And so if you assume that a lot of those were melted up and the number is getting smaller all the time of those actually in existence, people will be willing to pay more for those, not only because there's silver in the coin, but because the coin has a scarcity value of there not being so many coins on the market. Coins have had an excellent track record of moving up even faster than the price of silver or gold.
What would you advise for the owner of precious metals, whether it be in the form of bullion or grandma's silver coffee pot? Would you advise them to hold on to the objects or to sell them at the current market price?
I think people are rushing to sell the family silver probably too rapidly. Now, in terms of, and also a lot of the family silver can be classed as antiques. And that puts a scarcity value on it. So I would suggest that people hang on to the family silver, but if they ever do decide to sell it, not take it to a dealer who's going to melt it up, but take it to an antique dealer who might discover some hidden value.
Can gold and silver be considered good hedges against the current rage of inflation?
If you were going to buy gold or silver, and I think it would be a good idea up to a certain point, maybe 15 or 20% of one's assets, you would buy, let's say you had $10,000 to put into it. You would buy, maybe in 1980, maybe you would buy $1,000 worth. In 1981, you'd buy another 1,000. And you would move into the market gradually, and thus average out your purchases over times when the market was high and when the market was low. You could do this on, it wouldn't have to be on an annual basis, you could do it on a quarterly basis, but the point is not to invest all of the money in one big lump, but spread it over a period of months or even years.
Would you advise diversifying between the metals?
I think that would be a good idea. Gold and silver tend to move together, but not always. Silver is more of a commercial product. Silver is mined and consumed, and gold is mined and kept. Practically all the gold that was ever mined is still in existence. So the price of gold fluctuates with this big, tremendous number of tons of gold, while the price of silver fluctuates more with current production and commercial demand.
For Nevada Weekly, this is Chris White reporting.
May 12th through the 18th is Deaf Awareness Week, and it's going to be that week in which we will focus attention on the problems that people face who have lost their hearing, John. Nevada Weekly's Judy Drews spoke with some people who have experienced this loss of hearing to find out more about their problem and about how they're facing it. And here's Judy's story.
I'm talking with Ursula Swansik today. She's an interpreter for the deaf, a sign language instructor, and coordinator in the Resource Center of the Speech Pathology and Audiology Department at UNR. And we're here to talk about Deaf Awareness Week, something that I didn't know too much about, but I believe it begins May 12th. Could you tell me what it is?
Yeah, okay. Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, the Parents Association for Deaf Children got together and had the governor sign a proclamation of Deaf Awareness Week. And the reason for this is, well, there's several reasons, but it promotes awareness on deafness. There's a lot of awareness on all kinds of handicaps now. People are becoming more aware, and in doing so, they're becoming less fearful of approaching someone with a handicap. And so that's one reason, and also a lot of services have come about because of deaf awareness.
This is a statewide week, then?
Yes, celebrated more in Reno, but yeah, it is statewide.
Well, what are some of the things that will take place during this week to make people more aware?
Well, we're hoping to have all kinds of projects. There's one thing is a poster contest, which is starting any time, and the poster contest will be for the elementary school children, middle school, and high school. And they just draw up a poster. I'm not quite sure on the details, but they can enter these posters in the contest.
And win prizes?
Yeah, we have first, second, and third place prizes.
Uh-huh. And T-shirts. You said something about T-shirts?
Right, we have T-shirts that have the I love you sign, which is this. Okay, and that's internationally known as I love you. And it's on the front of the T-shirts, and then has the alphabet on it in sign language. And they're rather nice, and we sell them at the Resource Center. And that will be part of the deaf awareness projects too. Also, we'll be going to schools and demonstrating sign language, showing films. There'll be bake sales. May 10th, I think it is, there'll be a bake sale. And there's just a lot of things that we'll be doing for Deaf Awareness Week.
Well, there's a big project at the end, a
Yes, the
capping
highlight.
climax.
Yeah.
What is that?
The Montana Theater Silence performance. And that's always been used as the highlight of Deaf Awareness Week. And that will be on May 18th. We'll have a matinee and an evening performance, which is the first time we're doing that. Usually we just have an evening performance. And the Montana Theater Silence Group performs in sign language with music. And it's really hard to describe. You have to see it. It's just beautiful. It's really exciting.
That those with hearing as well as those that are deaf would thoroughly enjoy.
Oh yeah, it's not just for the deaf, and I think that's one of the misunderstandings when people hear Montana Theater Silence or hear a little bit about it. They think it's just for the deaf, but it's for everyone, and everyone enjoys it.
We have a little sample of this, so let's take a look at it and see just what's in store for people.
All right.
I've got to be where my spirit can run free. Gotta find my corner of the sky. Everything has a season, everything has its time. Show me a reason and I'll soon show you right. Cats sit on the windowsill, children fit in the snow. Why do I feel I don't fit in every place I go? Rivers belong where they can ramble. Eagles belong where they can fly. I've got to be where my spirit can run free. Gotta find my corner of the sky. Every man has his big dream, every man has his goal. People like the way dreams have us sticking to the soul. Thunderclouds have their lightning, nightingales have their song. Can't you see I want my life to be something more than long? Rivers belong where they can ramble. Yeah, eagles belong where they can fly. I've got to be where my spirit can run free. Gotta find my corner of the sky. So many men are desperate to settle for something small. Don't you know that I won't rest until you know I had it all?
As you see, there's all kinds of things that they do. They dance to the music, they sign. It's almost an art, really. And you see the artistic side of sign language, which is really nice. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful language.
Sign language is beautiful and it's so graceful. It must take a long time to learn. How long?
It depends on the people, I guess. It does take time, of course, like any language. It's probably easier than any language to learn because it's closer to English in a sense, although the syntax, well, a lot of the structures of Almaslan is what it's actually called, does make it different from English. It would take anywhere from a year or two, I would say, depending upon how much time the student put into it for proficiency.
Well, there's a lot more awareness I have seen, such as on television, interpreting the news.
Yeah, a lot of that's come about again because of Deaf Awareness Week, I think. Of course, Deaf Awareness isn't limited just to that week. And this year we're trying to make it a whole year project, and then the week being the highlight of deaf awareness. Yeah, there's television captioning that's coming about, teletypes, which is a communication device for people to use with phones. And then there's the Resource Center, which I work at, and this has been a project going on 2-3 years. I don't know exactly how long we've been there, but the Resource Center provides services for the deaf, and that's interpreting, having speakers meetings, and also doing projects that create awareness.
What are these Portatels that I've heard about? What do they do?
Well, they're a little, well, the Portatels are they're the smaller units. I want to say, I can't think of it anyway. They're smaller units that you put the telephone on, and it's like a little typewriter. And when I say smaller units, there are teletypes, which are the big ones that you've probably seen at like Western Union or something like that. And the smaller ones, you put the phone on, and if the person at the other end has to have one just like it. And then you type on it, and the message just kind of comes across, and you read it. It's a really neat device. Yeah.
That allows for communication that otherwise could not take place.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing about it is it allows more independence. The biggest problem in deafness, of course, is communication. And the more these things come about that allow these people to be themselves, such as the captioning, they don't have to rely on someone signing for them. The Portatels, now they can make their own phone calls. The more independent a person can be allowed to be, I think that's really important.
Very briefly, also I know you're working on a documentary for deaf in the courtroom, right? We have a little bit of footage of that too. Just what is the importance of this?
Okay, interpreting is something that's a new awareness too, the use of interpreters. And that's one of the projects that we are working on right now at the Resource Center, is making the courts aware of the need for interpreters, which I'm sure they're aware of actually, but the types of interpreters, the certification, and why it's important to have someone who is certified with the National RID versus a family member. And so we did skits and demonstrations and talked about it and answered questions. And it was really a good session.
Well, that's wonderful, and I hope that a lot of people just do become more aware of the deaf and will support Deaf Awareness Week. Thank you for being with us to help us with it.
John and I are glad that you could join us for this edition of Nevada Weekly. Hope you'll join us again next time, 2 weeks from today on Channel 8. We'll see you then.